Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining today. Sai and I are gonna kick us off. We'll give a couple more minutes, but we're gonna kick off with our conversation today. We're really excited to talk about a topic that is a project I've been working on at Maryland Legal Aid, and Sai actually presented at ITC this year. So we're going to talk about budgets to actuals and creating systems to like just manage your grants. Like so the like are you leaving money on the table for a grant or just understanding progress made and spend down for a grant? So we thought it would be nice post ITC. I was talking with Sai, could we bring it back to a wider audience to have this conversation and just see if we could problem solve together on some of the maybe areas where we've made progress in our projects, but as a collective, learn from others in the community space to continue to grow in our efforts for our projects at our own orgs. So that's kind of what the conversation today is about. Um, just an open conversation, open forum to brainstorm as a collective. But we thought it would be cool for Sai to just do a demo for those who weren't able to join ITC this year on his project. We came up with a bunch of questions that we were thinking about that we wanted to bring to the group. So that's a little bit of the intro of today's conversation. I mean, we recorded in case this can be helpful for anyone in the future. But Sai, unless you have anything else, I'm happy to hand it off to you to get
Yeah,
us started.
shall I start? Yeah. Hello everyone. I'm Sai. I work as a data analyst at Legal Aid of Nebraska and I operate from Omaha. So coming to our project, I just want to share our project, which we have presented in ITC conference. So are you able to see the presentation?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is our presentation regarding connecting different data sources from HR, payroll, finance, and budget data, which are actually siloed in our systems, which would not connect earlier. And along with that, connecting with our case management system called PICA, which records staff hours and also staff data and how which fund codes are being used by different staff. So uh, with the help of this project, what we were able to achieve is understanding how much spending we are has been made on each grant and how many grants are near to deadline or like they are overspent or underspent. So that was the main idea to track. So coming to our organization, we are an organization serving uh, 93 counties, and we have offices in 7 counties, and we are a staff of around 90 members, and we are having we get funding from more than 100 sources. Few are for federal, few are state, local, and some private and other kind of donations and contracts. And our overall budget is some between 11 to 12 million dollars. So the problem which we try to solve is like we are having lots of data, but all those data are not connected together. So we wanted to make sure how we can use the data to make much more informed decisions. Like we had few scenarios. Uh, Multiple funding sources are available, but which funding source do we need to use for particular kind of task, like for pro bono or for elder access? Which funding source are available and which one do we need to use? and how much money is left in a particular grant, and till how long will it take to spend that amount. And for example, a particular attorney has resigned recently. Do we have enough funding to fill her position or not? So to brainstorm and make decisions on these kind of scenarios, we have data, but all those data is not connected because the finance data is with finance, the payroll data is with the HR, uh, the number of hours staff is spending is with the case management. So this is how the data is like the case management system has the hours, the payroll has number of dollars which you are paying for employees, but we do not know from which grants uh, that payment is coming from. And our accounting system is called Blackboard. So it has data related to direct expenses which are charged to each grant, but it does not display by each staff, like or for each case, how much expense is being spent on that particular staff or for a particular case. And we have a grant management system called Instrumental. It gives data about the amount of awards which we got awarded and the deadline for that particular grant, uh, but it doesn't tell about anything else other than that. So to connect all this data together, uh, we had like the original vision. So to connect all these data sources and build a central data layer using a database, like we had MySQL database. Along with that, we have our AWS server as well to integrate all this data. And on top of that, we plan to build live dashboards in Tableau, so which will give us the live visualizations and real time data about which grant uh, has been spent, is being spent for a particular uh, uh, like particular case or different kinds of cases, and how many staff are working on it, and how many number of hours are being built on those grant funding sources. So like the dashboards which we have built would have enabled us to give this kind of data, like the real time spent by each grant, remaining balance by each grant, and up to date data about uh, the number of hours each staff is spending on a particular grant or total number of grants. And based on that, we would get early alerts about overspent risk on a grant or underspent risk, and all that sort of information. So, but in reality, to build such kind of dashboards, we had few constraints. One was the softwares which are available to us, like Velocity, which is our HR uh, data source, Blackbird, which is our finance data source. Uh, they provide us limited API access or some kind of restricted API access because uh, we are unable to pay them money to get those APIs, or they do not have APIs to give us real-time data. So, um, so because of these reasons, uh, we have shifted to alternate approach to build the dashboards. That is, instead of going for real-time API based data, uh, we started pulling the monthly reports from these particular softwares. And along with that, our Pika database has data in real time, so it tracks the staff hours in real time. So I was able to connect all this data together, and I was able to integrate the data into a Tableau data model. And based on that, I have built the dashboards, which were earlier supposed to be real time, but right now they are on monthly basis. So instead of real time, they are monthly basis. These kind of dashboards I was able to build. So this data will give us the monthly spend by each grant, the remaining balance on a particular grant by each month, and along with that, uh, the number of hours staff is spending on different funding sources. Uh, like uh, I can these are the I can so if you can see is it visible?
Yes.
The Tableau. So these are the dashboards which I currently built. So if we look at the funding data, it would give us monthly expenses by each grant. So if we look at the so if we look at this data, so it would give us for grant 47 from January till October. These are the monthly expenses which we are spending, and this is the total expenses uh, from Jan to October. So in this way, we are able to track the expenses for uh, each month and overall expenses. And here, for example, for a particular to identify the number of the amount of funding that is remaining by each month, I have built on the dashboard which will tell us, like for example, for the grant 99. So this is the amount awarded, this is the amount budgeted, and these are the monthly expenses for each month. And it would give us the balance amount. So we would know by end of October how much is the balance. Like for example, it's some 367K, and it would let us know how much funding is left with us and whether we can fund the next cases uh, or not. We can figure out from these kind of dashboards.
And Sai, you said you're using Tableau.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a Tableau. So, okay, this is a Tableau dashboard. These dashboards are built in Tableau.
Mm.
So like as I said, like how is a particular employee building their time. So if we come here, we can see in this particular Tableau report, I'm able to see based on their employee IDs how many hours are being spent on a particular funding source. Like admin is a funding source, and these are all different funding sources which this employee 210 is using. So I can see 6 hours is being used for admin, 2 hours is being used for NTAP, and these are the various data source funding sources which that particular staff is spending their time on, and based on that, we would know where that particular staff is spending majority of their time. So yeah, these are the uh, few use cases which can be used with the help of these dashboards. So as I've shown earlier, like how much money is left from a particular fund source, monthly spend versus award amount versus budgeted amount. This is what we can see from this particular tableau dashboard, like the amount awarded, the amount budgeted, the expense, and the balance for by each month, and by end of October, how much we are left for this particular grant. So this data is available for all these grants. So this is what we are able to achieve currently with the help of these integrating data from different data sources using flat files and the live Pika server. So coming to the costs involved in building these dashboards are uh, ideally, I would say zero because we already had Tableau from 2016 through the TAG grant, which was around 136K, and the licensing cost for Tableau would cost less than 5K per year. So, and it took me a span of 6 to 7 months to build these dashboards because I had to work out with different teams to understand the data and to understand the anomalies in building those dashboards.
Sai, could I call out a good question, a couple of good
Yeah,
questions and kind of tag to what you just mentioned?
yeah.
Um, so there's a question on how do you handle data and reports where the funder expense categories are different than your accounting system? So to like kind of piggyback on that, like what was your experience like working with the different systems to create?
Yeah. So the issue with different systems is if you see here, we have grant ID, funder name one, and funding source one. So the grant is written differently in different data sources. For example, in instrument it's shown as grant ID, but whereas in our finance data it's funder name, and in the instrumental data is funding source. So currently we are having few issues with that, but what we have done is we have developed uh, uh, it's kind of based on grant ID. We are using grant ID as a common data, I would say a common data point for all the reports, so that based on that we are able to identify which funding source the data belongs to. But still, we are having few issues in standardizing this particular thing, and that is what the next step we want to standardize. We are also having currently facing this issue, but currently most of the funding sources uh, are similar in all the data sources. We are able to just by looking at them we are able to identify.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just about to ask, you said it is like the solution would seem and could be the standardizing, but then like where
yeah,
do you go from there? Um, so I just wrote that down. So maybe like once we get to like brainstorming, we can talk on that.
yeah, because yeah, these are the challenges as you said, like challenges which we are facing currently are uh, the vendor limitations on integrating functions and like automations using these APIs. Because if we get APIs, we can do much more automations instead of doing the manual data integration and all. And the data would be more real time instead of right now it's on monthly basis, but it could be on daily basis if we can get the API access. And as I said, regarding this funding source and all, it is we want to standardize the data across all the sources. So the funding name should be same in the HR data. It should be same in the our case management system, whether it's Pika or legal server, and it should be same in the finance data. And along with that, though we have a lot of most of the data with us, still some data points are missing. For example, uh, here the funding here in the funding data. uh, Here in the so if we see here, this Tableau dashboard gives us the employee hours and employee gross salary plus employee benefits by fund code as well. So these benefits will include the medical directs and indirects like insurance cost covered, uh, medica, all those things. But still, few small things. are missing in these benefits. For example, whenever an employee gets some kind of insurance, uh, our company pays some kind of insurance. At the same time, the employee would pay some part of that insurance. So in this data, some part is covered, but other part is not covered because it's little difficult for right now. It's becoming difficult for us to track the data through our HR payroll system. So we want to get that data as well using maybe by communicating with the insurance team as well as the payroll team, and we want to be able to get the data directly into the payroll system. So these are the few data points which are very minute, but they are missing. So these are the current challenges we are facing with the data which we have currently.
And another good question in the chat was around Tableau and just managing the dashboards. So do you need coding experience to set up
Uh,
those type of
and
dashboards?
we don't need that much coding experience. I can actually, as it's my own laptop, I can show. Uh, I think it should be better. It should be best if I show this. So we don't need that much of coding experience to build these kind of dashboards. So uh, so if you see here, these are the different data sources which I have connected in this Tableau. So we should just have the basic idea, and if we have access to ChatGPT or cloud software, they would give us each and every step on how to integrate them and what would be the better way to get the data like more accurately and without more fastly. So I have used a concept called connecting them using relations instead of joins. So it would give me data. It would give data with less number of rows, and with less number of duplications and errors. So these small things, it doesn't require huge knowledge on coding, basic understanding, uh, and if we have access to ChatGPT or Claude, it should help us to build these kind of dashboards. Only to take maybe couple of weeks, maybe hardly 1 month to build this.
Thank you. So you
Yeah.
would say maybe like if you're interested in Tableau as like the platform for the setup, maybe getting started with some different trainings or just like using AI to help write out the code or not code necessarily, but just help you to draft.
Yeah.
That
Yep. Yep.
could take maybe a month
Uh, I would say less than that, but
or
if you
less.
are but if you're complete novice, and if you want to do much more complex things than what I have done, it might take. But ideally, I would say it would take less than that as well if you have enough time.
And I you can let me know. This is another good question. If you want us to hold on this one, for if it's going to come up in the slides. But it was curious about data you have in Blackbaud. And then for the wider audience, what anyone else here has in their accounting software. Are you able to directly report from there how much money has been spent on the grant to date, for example? So for on our end, the answer to that has appeared to be no, exporting data from the accounting system to do a bunch of adjustments in Excel to get the actual numbers. And are others having that similar experience for the accounting data specifically?
I did not understand the question actually.
So with getting the data out of Blackbaud, is it more of that API already, or is that something you're looking for in the future? So
Uh,
you're having
so,
to
uh,
export the data to Excel to
okay.
manipulate it before it's ready for the use in the dashboard.
Okay, right now we are getting the data in the form of Excel format, but ideally we wanted to get the data through APIs. Actually, Blackboard has API to access data, but the
Mhm.
only thing is those APIs are not giving us the data which we want. So to get the data which we want via APIs, we need to build them uh, through custom integrations, which which we have to pay some kind of money for them. But as we are short of budget, we didn't choose that part currently. But in coming forward, we want to go via APIs.
And then any like kind of configuration of the data happens in Excel, or is it happening in Blackboard before it gets exported?
Uh, Configuration would I mean there is no directly we get the data from Blackboard,
Hmm.
and once we get that Excel sheet from Blackboard, I do those integrations in the Tableau.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Can I answer the question live for for what we use for our accounting system?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, so yes, we do have to like export our data and clean it up. I will say we're a somewhat unique situation, because we're a department at a university, so we have to use a university system, but we do use QuickBooks, and it does have, in terms of accounting, it does uh have it, a lot of, you're able to export a lot of information and see a lot of information in the report in QuickBooks. We like have two issues that come up and why we need to use Excel. Or actually we use QuickBooks.
Yeah, I understood your question.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
okay, got it.
I was trying to answer this question in terms of what we use, which is like we use QuickBooks, but then like I think the issue for us is like the payroll, which is through the university system, and then like the it's payroll, and then the that question I had about like the grants expense categories are different than our expense categories, and so they combine or separate out expense categories in a different way, and like that's where we have to like clean up. So like we can see the spend down of like the money, but like when we're giving a report to a funder, we can't just like export a report from QuickBooks and give that to the funder because it doesn't align. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers the person's question, but
Yeah, actually, even in my case, I forgot to mention the Blackboard data which we actually get from Excel is a bit of messy. So what I do is I use Python to clean the data and get the data in proper format. That's what I do. Yeah. So this sheet one, ideally, uh, it has been cleaned using Python before being dumped into the Tableau.
Thanks, Sai.
Yeah, I hope this answers their question. Yeah. Any other questions?
And well, you're welcome to come off of mute, but so far I think I got all the ones in the chat.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, so right now, from here, where we want to go as our next step is to integrate all the data via APIs and get the data from all the data sources, like even the small, minute data points which we are missing. We want to get those data into all those payroll and different kinds of accounting softwares we are using. And as we said earlier, we want to automate few of the finance tasks like labor allocations, uh, uh, the insurance amounts which we are missing right now. Those things we want to get into the finance software and the payroll software, and based on that, we want to get much more near real-time softwares in the coming days. Maybe we want to achieve that this year if we get enough funding from the TIG grant. This is what our project is about. So, does anyone have any questions or any suggestions?
Not seeing anything in the chat, but I was gonna drop in, I was gonna drop into the chat just to kick off our brainstorming, just to hear and just know who we have in our group today. So if you could just add a one or two if you've completed a similar project, thought about, or two if you thought about creating a system for grant spend down. I know for I'm with Maryland Legal Aid, and so we started on a project about maybe a year. It feels like so long ago, but just maybe a year ago, where we started with just, could we pull what data we had and we use Legal Server and take information related to our grants and time spent on those grants. Um, complete a similar project. Yeah. And then looked to pull data from what we started with was thinking like we would pull from our accounting system, and then started to realize as we went on this journey that there were these other variables and elements that we had not anticipated. So we've made progress, but still just trying to understand like the best system to help us ongoing, I think, is the sustainability of a project like this is where we are, I would say. Um, and then, Matt, have you seen similar projects, or is the broadness just not specific to grant spend down, if you don't mind sharing?
For me, it's more on the grantee side. So like because we're not so worried about our own grant spending too much, but we are starting to think about that. But for us, it's getting it from the grantees in a way that's not too difficult, but then displaying it for our POs. So like um where it's we currently use Salesforce, and that's we use that for the experience to collect data. And the problem we're facing now is all these different variables, like for example, consultants. That's a budget line, and then we have people, then we ask for granular details, and we are trying to connect that up. So there's a lot of things we're currently working on. It's a very mixed bag, I would just say. Like it works, but it's not working to a point that I would think would make life easier. And most importantly, I worry that like since this is more external facing than internal, it makes it harder to manage that. But this is still good things to think about, even especially since we really need to think about how we can help our grantees report out. So that's why I'm thankful this is a very fascinating and important topic.
No, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I wrote down was, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Matt, is just like the standardizing. So it's like we may have at least my experience was like we have the data and we have it similarly in different spaces, but when we try to see these things like build like a clean connection, that's where we were like, okay, so wait a minute. So even if it's not this exact project, has anyone had any like solutions to even begin to like standardize the data? And my follow-up to that was just what I started thinking about from that question was who was involved in the discussion around the standardizing. Definitely the owners of those systems, but who else maybe did you tap in the conversation if you had a similar discussion at your org?
For us, it was more on the end of like program officers, and then we did talk to a couple of the grantees. Like I said, this is more on the opposite side rather than what you're showing, but it just because for us, this is a very spend down, like we're trying to see the spend down as a foundation. And like we need to see, we have fiscal responsibilities. So the fun part is like what you're showing, for example, is we do actually ask something like that, but we asked it for a quarter. But when you were showing the staffing, we're in this rock and hard place between asking for actual salaries and then what FTEs. So like we it's creating those links.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions? And actually, I had one question
Yep.
regarding the agentic AI one. I was always thinking like, is any one of them using agentic AI or something to clean the data or doing some kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, that was one of our prompt questions.
Or like any organization using some kind of agentic AI currently for the reporting tasks or something. This is a question I had from past few months, and I wanted to connect with them to understand about how those agentic AI should help us in data cleaning or reporting kind of things.
Not in this, we have been using AI, but not in this project in particular
Yeah,
that I
okay.
can think of. Um, with our setup, everything aside from like some of the data sources where we currently don't have APIs, we're having more of a manual process to moving, but the cleaning itself is um, being done by the owner of the data before it gets shared with us, I would
Okay.
say.
Okay. And do you have any like plan to move to APIs in coming times, or do you have any plan for it?
Yeah, so we use legal server, so that reports API is there.
Okay.
And our system, our stack of technology right now, ADP is the platform for
Oh, okay.
HR that we really don't, we haven't used any data from there, but hopefully in the future, want to create an API connection, hopefully, with Paylocity, because we'll be moving eventually. And then, the other solution we have would still just be manual, but maybe using within Microsoft, like potentially I could see sometimes these Power Automate.
Yeah.
Our finance, I'm not like super involved with it, but our finance person is setting up, I think something similar to like Power Automate, but with Google Sheets, because our accountant, in addition to QuickBooks, uses Google Sheets for like her accounting system. So that's kind of like uh, manual in the sense of like manually setting up like formulas and connections between different Google Sheets to kind of clean up the data, but with on validations with from formulas, so we don't have to like manually go in and clean it up. But I'm not super involved in actually setting up the system, so I can't really speak to like you know the what formulas and what validations are being used.
Did you have any other questions for the group that you'd been pondering on with your challenges?
Uh, right now that not that many. I had only questions like art, like uh questions related to what are the most like maybe if I want to automate, if I can automate the data cleaning process more. Right now I'm using Python to automate, like to clean the data from Blackboard, but if there is any other alternate way, uh, so I was thinking about more automatic because right now I need to clean the data, connect the data every time, like for every month, and then I need to publish it into the dashboard. But I was thinking if there is any more automatic way, like instead of every time me coming in and connecting the data, if I just dump the data sources into the like particular folders, and
Mhm.
if I trigger using some kind of some code or something automatically, it should clean the data and dump the data into the Tableau. So that kind of automations I'm thinking of, but I'm not sure which is like if there is any best way to do that.
Has anyone used Google Cloud or BigQuery? I know I have not.
Because currently for me, like each and every month, connecting all those data sources together, cleaning them, it looks like a mundane process for me. Yeah, that is the only part I want to eliminate and automate that part.
Yeah. And please let me know if I mispronounce. Is it Mary?
Mari.
Mari? What were your thoughts with how you would incorporate Google Cloud and BigQuery?
I don't really know. We have other types of data that we have to manage, and the person who manages that uses BigQuery to like clean the data. So she imports the raw data, and then like uh yeah, I think is kind of like that manual cleaning or like standardization. She uses BigQuery. So just wondering if, but she's taking it from one source instead of like multiple sources. So I'm just wondering if people have used it. And I know they have, I'm pretty sure Google has like nonprofit pricing also. Um, so and I think like BigQuery uses SQL, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, anyway, I was just wondering if anybody
Yeah,
had solutions about that. I haven't really looked into it that much. I just know it's something that somebody else at our org uses.
gotcha. No, thanks for sharing. No, I know we haven't used it at our org, so I don't have much experience, and I don't have much experience with it outside of here either. But some good tools have been mentioned. I've been taking notes. We have a little bit of time left. If you all wanted, I know I saw a lot of twos, so like projects of interest. I put together a mock-up of what we resulted so far, but it's still like we have a lot of the same challenges we're sharing here of some still manual pulling of the data, identifying like the like consistency in standardizing of naming to make the connections between the different systems. So I'm happy to take the last little bit of time just to offer another maybe way to visualize the data or just how it could result and just share what we've found so far, if that sounds good. Am I okay to swap places with you, Sai, on sharing? I can
Sorry.
share my screen if that's so good.
You are sharing my subscribe.
Are you all seeing some green bars?
Yeah.
Cool. So we use Power BI, and so we took the data from a couple of different sources I mentioned, So Excel, legal server, Power BI again, legal server. And so far, I think those are the two main sources that we have. We actually had my colleague who was here a little bit earlier, but moved all that data into an Azure warehouse. So all the data was stored in Azure to then pull into the Power BI dashboard. And so these are just some screenshots because my confidence of things going well and when you're in a live situation, I don't have that size. So I took screenshots. And so these are just a couple of screenshots of what resulted in our visuals. So what you're seeing here, the target hours, so the hours that were set at the start of the grant. And then month over month, this dashboard populates. So it's a cumulative of the actual hours that are being captured for the grant in legal server. And so we said, let's start with one grant and see what we can figure out and then, hope to come up with a system that we could use for other grants that we manage. So this first page is just with the breakdown by office, how much time was spent ongoing within whatever month we pulled that data. And then we also broke it down by the office so you could see the individuals. And what was really interesting when we were having conversations with this view, you were able to see the people that weren't necessarily assigned on the grant. And then you could also see where you have this gray bar, but there's no actual, it's with a vacancy. So that's something we're talking about now is how do we ongoing really capture that the reason the money hasn't been spent down is because we have a vacancy on the grant. And then if we were in Power BI, you could go from, I think this one is about the office. So like you could go from the page related to the office and see, over month how much time, and this was the target, that dotted line was the target value. So were we on target with how much was anticipated in use of the grant in that month? And then we had the similar kind of layout for the individual for their target to actual. And it looks like the target line got removed. And then this page was the last page. You could look by the office name and see a summary of the percentage of the target. So like how many people in that office were assigned to the grant. And this is where also we've been having this conversation of because this is being captured in legal like this we experimented on like if we were to capture the grant detailed like the percentage of the person on the grant in legal server, that's where this link goes back to in theory would be to edit that there was a change in their grant percentage. So we were thinking of using this in multiple ways of like management of the grant versus just looking at the ongoing usage and understanding trends in use of the grant. And so that's what these links ultimately connect to is the record and legal server for that user and their percentage on the grant. So these were just a couple of things we had started with and ultimately it really did help at least in the conversation that we were having about where could we go or where do we need to go in order to get those answers. And then again, Sai's presentation was like very timely because we had just gotten to this place of visualizing and looking at a couple months of data to just see, was this even helpful to get us started? Were there still questions that were unanswered? And ultimately, we landed at there were still questions that we couldn't really answer. And that's where we are back at the drawing board, if you will. But any question? All right. Well, I will take that as No questions. We did have a couple more prompts, but just wanted to open it to the group if anyone had any questions or thoughts. If it's a project similar to this, that you're, in the midst of thinking about, welcome to use the time and space to ask any questions to help you with a project you're working on at your org.